Our first guest is none other than the design maestro behind Horton Interiors. With 20 plus years of global experience, he settled in Dubai some 7 years ago and joined Horton Interiors to fulfill a very real demand for exceptional design and build projects. His passion lies in the merging of imaginative design with technical brilliance, propelling Horton Interiors to becoming one of the region's most reliable and innovative partners. Their impressive portfolio includes Ras Al Khaimah's largest co-working centre, Middlesex University's academic campus, and stunning projects from Allsop and Allsop, Jumeirah, and of course Gensler. Tune in to gain insights from Douglas Drummond, the creative genius driving Horton Interiors' success. Alongside Douglas on the Let's Talk series is a visionary interior architect and co-founder of Waru. With a focus on creating nomadic spaces, her portfolio includes prestigious hospitality projects for brands like Westin, Hyatt, Fairmont, Asco Real Estate, and F5 Networks. Her design approach emphasizes research, strategic thinking, and a deep understanding of human psychology. Recognized for her innovative mindset, she has received numerous awards and accolades, featured in many publications like DZine and Arc Daily. So join us as we explore the mind of this design wanderer and uncover her unique approach to interior architecture. Get ready for insights from Rasha Al-Tegriti, the creative force behind Waru. Doug, Rasha, thank you very much for coming to the podcast today. So I'm going to just focus on Doug very, very briefly, if that's all right with you. Douglas, tell me about your origin story and your rise to power at Horton Interiors. Please elaborate, sir.
Oh, wow, well, yeah, long story. But I mean, I'm a designer by background. I originally studied furniture design, so that's my background. And then first job was actually with a contractor. I worked for a shop fitter and then moved into the consultancy side. Yeah, worked in London for a few years. Then I came out to the UAE, worked with Perkins & Will for a few years. And then after I left Perkins & Will, I've gone back to the contractor side. That's why I'm sort of here to support design and build, where I think the marrying the creative design and the buildability is sort of really, it's quite prominent in the market at the minute. So I think it's important.
Yeah. And you also have some Asian experience as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I have, yes. I've travelled around a bit before I lived in London. So I lived in Japan for a year. Yeah, that was a different story, a different part of my life.
Yeah.
So taught English there for a while.
Okay.
That's what I did there, yeah.
Wow.
That must have left a
That's
big impact on you.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I mean, I lived just on the outskirts of Tokyo for about a year and a half. Yeah, it's an amazing city. Like, the culture's amazing, the architecture's amazing. So it was really good. And I would have probably stayed there longer, but wanted to come back and start my career in design, really. So I had to sort of, come back and, started as a designer again in London after that.
So for those of you that don't know Douglas, he is the managing director of Horton Interiors, and actually he's the big brain behind the Let's Talk podcast series powered by Maven. Thank you very much for coming up with this great initiative, because I see other regions around the world like significantly more effective in terms of interior design than ourselves. And I look to Australia as kind of the tip of the spear when it comes to workplaces and how much they've progressed there. And when I was working over there for a few years, had the opportunity to sit down with one of the head honchos in the interior design world for Australia. And I asked them the question, why is it that Australia and the Nordics are really kind of competing for those best spaces in the world and the rest of the world is playing catch up? And he said to me, Oliver, it's because we share. We share information, we share research with our competitors. I'm quite happy to give a tour of one of the spaces that I've just designed to one of my competitors and explain them through my thought process so that we can all grow and learn as a community. And that's why we are, the tip of the spear in Australia and to a degree in the Nordics as well. And that really resonated with me, and that's why I'm so proud to be involved in this project. And thank you for asking me to host this series, because that's what we're doing in its infancy now. We're starting to share our research. We're inviting people in. We're generating a collective of a hive mind of people that can share insights for this region and give us a peek behind that interior design curtain. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity and everyone else that's listening out there the opportunity to learn from some of the best in the industry.
Yeah, no, agreed. Yeah, absolutely great. And I know that there's a lot of conversations that happen. Like we've had conversations before, and yeah, there's some valuable insights. And I think yeah, it is worth let's record them and share them with people. And hopefully, people can see some insights from people who are actually working in the industry in the region.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It really is. Right, Rasha, sorry to put you on pause. We'll just take the pin out of you now because we had focused on Doug for a very brief second there, but I'd love to know more about you, your approach to design, and Waru as well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, first of all. Well, I started my design journey in the hospitality industry. Initially, I wanted to be a traveler, travel the world and all, but because I couldn't do that, I needed to have a job first, make some money. I was like, fine, let me work somewhere close to traveling, which is hospitality, because I was always fascinated and how do you provide places and experiences that are different? How does this hotel look different from that hotel? How can the hotel feel like an experience by itself? It's not just checking in and going to your room. So I always wanted to study that, the different users' experiences. How does it feel? What makes people come back? And for me, hospitality is the best sector to do that, or what I thought is the only sector, let's say. So after doing a lot of hospitality work, I realized that I was more into the strategy, and that kind of design thinking, not just design, because design is just one of the steps. So then I did my master's in strategic design of spaces, which focused on a lot of things, one of which is obviously strategy, different users' experiences, developing personas, space as a brand. Like if I designed a place without putting a logo, how will you know it's this brand without really seeing a logo, How do you get the brand essence and spirit into a space? So it kind of widened my vision. It was not just design anymore. It was so many other aspects. It was a lot of psychology involved as well. So then I slowly started wanting to explore the workplace design, because I thought hospitality is the only place where you could explore that, because also back in the days, workplace was just a matter of desks. It wasn't the way it is nowadays. It wasn't the way it started happening. So then I shifted to workplace consultancy and design, because the masters also introduced us to workplace consultancy as the proper consultancy.
Yeah,
so
filming the brief, right?
Absolutely. So it's like you get the client's brief and then you validate it. The brief you come out with is not the same brief you received.
They don't really know what it is that they
Exactly.
need. They know what they
Yes.
want, but they don't know what they need.
Absolutely. Or they can't express. And I always say that. As I said, I'm really into psychology. I'm planning to do another master's or maybe PhD in psychology.
You're bonkers. Absolutely bonkers for that.
Yes, because I research quite a lot. First to understand myself, then to understand people around, then clients. And I gave a couple of presentations about the psychology of design, and one of the points I focused on was that we need to keep in mind that clients have different personalities and hence they have different communication styles. So we can't expect them to just be natural in expressing their thoughts. Sometimes they do need help. So it is on us to ask the right questions and to, extract. Absolutely. So, okay, it's like too many points here and there right now. But yeah, starting hospitality, always loved the human mind, human experiences, user experiences, the strategy, did the strategic design of spaces masters, got introduced to workplace consultancy. And then I realized that hotels are trying to be like offices and offices are trying to be like hotels. And it's like a mix of both. It's not even a hybrid. It's just a mix. And I call those spaces nomadic. So when I started Waru with my business partner, Mohammed Adib, we wanted to focus on those spaces, nomadic spaces. And by nomadic, I mean spaces where you can go, explore, sit alone, have your own time or chill with others. In a big group, in a loud group, or have a focused meeting. So whatever you need to do. And you can do this in an office, but you can also do it in a hotel lobby, right? This is how it is nowadays. So this is basically like what Waru does and what we focus on.
Okay. I'm prying a little bit here. Which pays better, hospitality or corporate interiors?
Oh, it depends. It depends on so many factors, really. It depends on so many factors. But hospitality projects definitely take longer. We all know that.
Yeah, I agree. And strategy is slowly creeping into this market, although definitely not as prevalent as it is in other regions around the world. I mean, if you were in if you're in Europe or APAC, you throw a stone and you hit 5 workplace consultants. Where here there just really aren't that many, and we need to kind of bang that drum. The brief that the client comes up with is usually just a whole series of wants and wishes, whereas actually what they requires teasing out. It requires providing the client with a common language that they can go to their employees with and tease out what their requirements are, and then plan based on that. So I'm so pleased that there's another workplace strategist and consultant out here in the market banging that drum and hopefully creating some great change out there. Now, the reason why I'm so excited to have both of you on here is because you kind of, if you're a Venn diagram, you would definitely be overlapping here. So let's start off with a definition. So what's the difference between like fit out, design and build, interior design, contractor? And this is just throwing it out to both of you. So whoever wants to answer first, or take a couple of them and you take another couple.
So I think, well, we start with what is, I guess, the traditional approach, which would be you create the design first, take it concept, schematic design, detailed design, and then at that point it would stop and, I guess, handed over to a contractor to take it on for construction. It'd be very 2 separate phases. The designer then can follow the construction phase, but is that right? I would say that it's separated and handed from one to the other. And then if we're going to talk fit out is just a construction, interior design is just a design. And then what we're talking about today, design and build, is where I guess the client has one point of contact generally, and then you can do the full design and construction and under one roof. That could be coming to a contractor like ourselves, whereby we will design the project, we will do the drawings and we will do the construction. And then there's these other variations of it whereby, you know, we might partner with a consultant like Waru and under us, and we can do it as a design and build partnership. Or now we've seen these other ones that I know you've worked on, which is, I guess, called like a concept plus or schematic plus.
That's 2 very different variations.
Yeah. Please elaborate on concept plus.
Yeah. So it became popular recently, and we were just having a chat a couple of weeks ago with actually project managers. Well, we're saying concept plus is like something between concept and schematic. So it's concept plus. And the idea is that you don't just give a layout, usually in concept. What is it? It's a narrative, the story, the findings based on the brief and research, and then the layout and the visuals, right? And maybe a digital material board. And that's about it. So if you give this back, like we worked on a project in the past and we had a discussion, the client budget was very tight, yet Douglas and the guys wanted to provide them with a different design, let's say. So we're like, okay, should we just do concept? And then the chat was like, but what are you going to get out of concept? It's an image. How are you going to know if this flooring is cast in place concrete or tiles that are concrete finish or luxury vinyl tile that is concrete finish? How are you going to know all of these things? So then we agreed to do concept plus, which is basically giving finishes markups. And that's like, okay, we take less time doing it because we're not doing actual drawings, we're marking it up, but we're yet specifying the actual products. So it becomes easier for Douglas and any like contractors and their team to price accordingly. But we had a chat, we're like, for designers, for us, I don't think it's that profitable because you're still giving you're giving all of the selections, but because you're not making it as drawings, as an official pack, which would be a schematic next, it's just called Concept Plus. So it kind of, I would say, decreases the value of it, but it's beneficial for,
it's getting, I guess, pushed onto us.
But that's I'm talking about designers, try to defend the designers since I'm a designer. But on the other hand, it's good for the contractors because now they don't have to guess. They don't have to guess what the material is, especially if the designer cares about the budget. Like, okay, what's the budget? So instead of going for like the fancy, nice looking Italian tiles of, 200 dirhams per square meter, okay, the budget only allows for the 50 dirhams square meter tile. So it's
yeah, and I think it gives us some flexibility in that case, whereby we can pick a material to suit the client's budget. What I also like about this model is it puts the onus on the contractor to do the detailed drawings and the construction drawings, like the full set. So the client, if there's any issues down the line, the client can just come back to us and be like, this is wrong, that's wrong, and the onus is on the contractor to do the drawings and to build it correctly.
one throat to choke.
Exactly. It doesn't come back where it might be like, oh, well, it's not been made correctly. And I might go, oh, well, yeah, that's a design issue. We've built to your drawing. I can't say that. It's my drawing. I own it. We have to realise your concept, and you've given us like a guideline for us to follow. So I think in many ways it does work, and I think it gives good value to the client. They get to bring on a consultant, and they get, one throat to choke. Yeah.
But then we need to give it a new name, right? That's what we're discussing like recently, because it's that concept plus, it's more of, we need to find a name. We need to find a creative name, of, okay, this package.
Your issue is the names.
No, I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because also we spoke about, okay, we're just brainstorming. We understand why clients cannot have us on the full scope. Of course, budget, time frame as well. So to me personally, I feel like the best is, if the budget's really tight, is schematic. Because in schematic, you give all the drawings, you give the elevations, you give the schedule, the finishes schedule, and so many other things. And if the budget really doesn't allow, then you don't need to do the detailed drawings, and the contractor can do them. And we've done another project where it was schematic plus, and it's funny because it's concept plus and schematic plus. I think I'm having a problem with the plus. I'm just saying, because I'll get to that part in a second, but the schematic plus was also good because the client wanted us to design the joinery. They said, okay, we like the contractors and everything, but we want your brain. We want you to detail the joinery. Yet the time frame and the budget, again, I'm sorry, I keep saying the budget, but hello, be realistic, did not allow. So what we did is that we provided them with a finishes schedule with like reference photos and photos describing what it should be like the countertop to be like this. For example, the cabinets to have push to open mechanism. So even though it's just words, it's verbal, it's still there.
But again, there's more guidance for us to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like if there is like a special detail, then okay, find a photo and put it. And so
There's room to maneuver in there as well, right?
Exactly, because it's not a detailed drawing, but then that's what we were asked to do, and that's what we're doing. We're giving it our all, by describing to like smallest bit of detail, but it's still a description.
Yeah.
It's not a drawing, but it's good. At least you have some guidance, the skirting height, the finishes, the mechanism, if it's a handle or if it's concealed. So it does give a lot of guidance. There might be some room for, maneuvering, as you said, but I don't think it's going to be 50%.
Yeah.
It's much, much less. And going back to the plus word, as I said, for us, it's more about the value, if that makes sense. Because if you just call it concept plus, the plus doesn't balance the weight, if that makes sense.
Well, you're providing more than, a lot more than concept, I suppose.
Yeah. And a lot more than schematic when schematic plus, because it's almost there, but it's not there. And I'm talking in terms of like financially, let's say. But that's why it's good to sit and talk here. But I feel that it's really good for clients. I remember that back in the days, designers wanted to be like fully involved. It's like, no, I either do it all or I don't. But why? If you're there to support the client, to deliver the project within the time frame, so they don't lose, money by exceeding the time because they're paying rent and so on and so forth. So why do you have to be all the way or not? You just tailor your solution and your offerings to what they're looking for and to what fits them.
So this concept plus, is this similar to what you've described as this hybrid model that's
why
appearing now and in comparison to the traditional model, or is there some slight differences there as well?
Traditional design and build, you mean?
No, hybrid to concept plus. Is it this? Are we talking about the same
It's
thing?
more or less the same thing, yeah. It can vary, I guess, whereby like we could partner on the project, but also I know that PM firms are now like asking people like Rasha to come up with this concept plus, and then they're tendering that to several contractors. So it can be done as a partnership, or you can still, I guess that's the hybrid. It's still being taken to a certain point, and then the client can tender it to whichever contractor they want.
Okay.
So that's where I think they get good value. They get a bit of both.
So is that at the behest of the client, or is this the PMs that are trying to break it apart to a degree?
Good question. I would say that the PMs are pushing this. I think they quite like that model as well. And especially, people are taking on units there, or they have to move people out while they renovate and stuff. So time is really key. So for this, it's an easier process. And I guess, it's a little bit easier for them to pin less scope gap can happen and things like that.
And which would you say the clients seem to prefer or benefit from? That could be from budget, could be from time.
Depends. I really
Yeah, I don't know
think
if I
it
could say
depends. Yeah.
which one they prefer. I mean,
Or which is the most popular at the moment?
Design and
yeah, definitely the market is pushing for that. It is better value. It is faster. Yeah, I think for some projects you won't be able to go down that approach, and there's going to be big firms, big multinationals with lots of stakeholders that are going to need their hands held as they do a design and lots of boxes to tick. They will have to stick to the traditional approach, I would think. But certainly for a lot of companies here that have taken a unit, need to move in fast, the design and build approach or the hybrid approach is certainly a good model for them.
Okay. So how can designers and contractors work in harmony? How can they work better together?
we're working harmony, right?
So tell us the secret.
Yeah.
What is the formula that you guys have created to have such good rapport and relationships with one another?
Coming from the design and build side, I think this is a good rapport. I mean, we can still have good rapport on the traditional side as well, but for me, sometimes people can, again, there can be this scope gap or like who's to blame if there's things missing from the drawing or the build quality. It's there can be arguments can happen. Whereas if we're on the design and build approach, we're on the same team. Everyone's got to make it work. So for me, there's better collaboration that way.
Absolutely. I also think it's much better nowadays, because back in the days, I was like, contractors would call designers crazy and designers will think contractors just want to destroy their ideas. Really, it was like that. It was like that. But when the design and build module became popular, it was kind of like, no, you're first to collaborate. And I think that's what we did. And with Douglas and the team and with the other contractors we worked with, it was more of a collaboration. Like for us, for Waru, the one thing that we wanted to do from the beginning is, instead of selecting finishes, then sending it to the teams and asking them to value engineer if needed. No, we would tell them, can you help us to select the right materials from the beginning, because we know those suppliers, but if you've done the initial budget study and you think it's expensive, then can you give us an alternative? So also working from the beginning, because it can also easily be, even though it's design and build, sometimes it still be design and then build, which that defeats the purpose. You should from the beginning really communicate and collaborate and work as one team. So that's the most important thing. And to always remember, it's not a matter of it's your fault or my fault. At the end, it's your name and my name that will be on the project. So we need to, and we have to collaborate better to deliver it in the best possible way.
So Rasha, we share a similar love for psychology and also workplace strategy and consultancy. So tell me about your approach to that, because I think a lot of the designers in the region are unfamiliar with what workplace strategy and consultancy might entail. And also, are you seeing it growing in popularity across the region?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, first, as I said, I was introduced to workplace consultancy in my master's, and it was super new to me, like workplace and consultancy. And it's a lot of psychology. As you know, it's a lot of psychology, it's a lot of observation, it's a lot of visioning, it's working with people. And that brought me to what I said recently, designers are psychiatrists, because you do have to sit, listen, observe, and give solutions. So, of course, workplace consultancy is gaining popularity, maybe here more than Saudi. I went Saudi recently for a couple of projects, and I realized that they started to, want to know a bit more about it. And by giving presentations to different people, I sensed the need of creating a document. So we just recently, in Ramadan, actually finished a document about why it matters, like workplace consultancy. And it was what we know, what we've been talking about, workplace consultancy matters because of staff attraction, staff retention, staff motivation, so on and so forth. But we made it data-driven. So we got numbers from all the global organizations to show one simple thing, ROI.
Yeah.
Because what's in it for clients? It's ROI. A lot of the clients do care about the health and well-being of their employees. They care about the productivity. But at the end of the day, they're running a business. They care about the ROI. So we focus on that. We're going to be publishing it soon, actually.
Lovely.
So again, it's things that we know. It's just putting it in another way. And when I tell you that it's your staff's well-being in the office will impact on your ROI, you might say, okay, You might believe it or not. But when I tell you that,
Prove it. Show me.
yeah, well, they spend this much time in the office. Research have shown that people nowadays get more sick psychologically than physically. The number of sick leave days taken, the number of so-and-so, and the impact of it on the ROI.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Yeah.
A to B to C to D, and then you get the result. So this is what we did recently because I sensed the need. And because you cannot just say, oh, it matters because they will feel better. At the end of the day, you need to show the impact on the business. So this is something that we did recently. And about psychology, it's really interesting for us when we meet a new team and a new client. Like recently, we met one client without mentioning names. We fell in love with them. And we really wanted to do the office like them, because like a family business and things like that. It's like, okay, that they didn't know how to, we just wanted to be like us. But what are you? Like, tell us, talk to us. So it's really interesting trying to think about the right questions to ask this particular client. Or do you sit in person? Do you talk online? Do you show photos? What do you do? How do you get them to express? And then when we hear, this is us, this is what you feel like. Hard work paid off, And that's what we target. Like when clients say, this is us, when you help them to express what they're looking for and they feel like, that's it.
Yeah. And are you doing that just through observations in a qualitative fashion? Mm-hmm. Or are you doing it quantitatively, maybe with some online surveys so you can generate data that way? How are you approaching the workplace strategy side from your clients?
So it depends on the scale of the project. So I'd say for corporate firms, it's not online research, it's more about the firm itself. So finding, let's say, an online tool that you can use to interview different people, but also understanding the different stakeholders, because you do talk to let's say, the internal project manager from the firm or the real estate division, you have the leaders, and then you take the staff survey, but then how do you overlap this? And who's responsible? Because it's not every single comment that you take that you can actually take, right? It's a summary, and usually this gets, like, let's say, finalized or validated by the real estate department of the corporate firms.
Yeah, I find that more often than not, we unnecessarily weight the opinions of the corporate real estate team or the group that's been formulated to deliver this project or the C-suite over the vast majority of what employees experience when they're at work. Because managers quite often think that they know what people need to do their jobs because they did that job, but they're not doing it anymore. They've risen up another level and now they're dealing with tissues and tears as opposed to like out there selling or delivering those projects and project management. So they are a little bit removed. And I quite often find that, when I'm brought in to do a talk for a client, if I'm in at the C-suite level, they're like, that was a great presentation. Everybody lower needs to hear this. Can you come back in and talk to them about it? But if I went in at the average Joe level, they would say the same thing. Oh, it's the C-suite that really needs to listen to what you just talked about there. So it's kind of like bridging the gaps between them.
Yes.
Helping with the communication in the organization as well is really key. So yeah, again, it's great to know that there's someone else out there championing workplace consultancy and strategy out there. I'd like to talk to you about disruptors in the industry. Me being in the industry for 12 years, I haven't seen a whole lot of like innovation coming out of like architecture and design. I'm seeing more like headwinds affecting them to a degree. So if we look at like, everyone's talking about ChatGPT right now. They're talking about the death of sales or marketing or finance because of its ability to actually do a lot of this content for us. Then we've got like homes design AI that can literally, you take a picture, feed it into the system, and it will generate some alternatives of what you might want to look at. Then you've got Autodesk that created a similar AI called generative design, where you can put a floor plan in and it will kick out 1,000 different iterations of what that floor plan could look like based on whatever criteria you feed into it. So it's only as good as the information that you give it, but either way, it's chopping at some of the work that D&B contractors and designers actually do. So are you worried? Are you seeing this chipping away, or are you seeing this augmenting services?
It's an addition, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I've done all the roles. I've just done an article on AI as well in design, and yeah, I mean, our days can be massive, and if client wants iterations to layouts, and it can be long evenings into the night, the team working on it. So certainly these tools are going to massively help to speed up the process, give the client more options, and ultimately better options, I think. So I think, yeah, these kind of tools that you're talking about are going to be a massive help to us as a contractor for doing more of the construction side, but I believe they're also helping the creative side.
So you're not worried then? You don't think this is the cotton gen, the industrial revolution for interior design, just taking
The
jobs?
robots taking it.
Yeah.
Also, like we've been talking a lot about psychology and talking to people and understanding people and knowing what questions to ask. I don't think this can be done by AI, and it's done to help us. It's more about the human using those tools. It's not about the tools themselves because they're nothing without us using them, right? So it's really about adapting and seeing what tools we need to use. And I haven't used ChatGPT because to me, it makes you lazy. Like I needed to send. I needed. No, I saw a friend.
It's smarter than me, so.
Yeah, I needed to send small paragraph about something, and I was in the middle of something, and I needed to type it, and a friend was like, "Why don't you use ChatGPT?" And I was like, "No, I want to use my brain," because I was afraid that if I used it once, I'll use it another time. I'm not saying don't use it, then the supporters will hate me now. I'm just saying that in this particular way, writing something or researching about something, I would rather do it my way because I want to practice. I want to practice research. I want to practice writing. I want to always practice that. But when it comes to taking a photo and asking a software to add some materials and show me how it looks like, then yeah, I could use that.
So it's like the hand-drawn sketch versus like the computer-generated image as well. So there is something to the authenticity of that, right? And getting down with the analog tools and resources and, expressing that through your body. But then there's also the speed and ease that you can get through DALL-E. That's the AI.
We've had a go doing a few visuals using Midjourney.
Yeah.
And at the moment, and we're novices at using it, but you can really get something very good very, very quickly. And for me, earlier in my career, I worked as a visualizer and hours, leaving it to render overnight and then coming back and it's too bright and the furniture. Yeah, long time ago. So I can really feel the pain of people. And now, in an instant, I can create a really fantastic render that is maybe 80% near where I want to get it. So I think if I was better at putting in the commands and getting out what I want, and I've seen people putting in sketches now and turning those into renders, it's an asset for sure.
But this should be removed because if clients hear this, they can expect their project to be
the hour. And that's
You mean they don't already expect them to be delivered tomorrow?
They already
I expect you to do it in the meeting probably.
No, it's like when you needed to buy yesterday and now because thanks to you, they're going to be like, we needed last week.
Yeah, we need to keep it a secret, yeah.
Yeah, my dad often recalls the moment where he was so proud that in a meeting he could have his portable fax machine and print out an invoice right there in that meeting. It's all changing. Right?
Oh my God.
It is.
So let's pivot just for a moment and talk about a subject that I know is close to both of your hearts and mine as well. And actually from the leadership downwards, it is the term of the year, sustainability.
Oh.
Boom.
There you go.
We just posted an article about it literally yesterday.
Oh, wow.
It was like a 2-minute read lunch and break article. Again, it's because we've been talking about such topics like sustainability, especially for so long. Most of the things that we're going to say are not new to us. We all know it. It's just putting it in another way. So I think we also had like a bit of roundtable discussion about sustainability recently, and it was again about hospitality and our operators kind of embedding sustainability requirements into their briefs or not, and things like that. The world, of course, is in a better place right now, but still, it's not there because people are still talking. Every single seminar we go to, like sustainability, and it's almost the same talk, which means there hasn't been a lot of. There has been progress, but it's not enough. So then to us, it's just like if you can't do, and that's what I said recently, if you can't do. So within the team, at the office, for example, we don't print business cards. We don't print drawings. I know a lot of designers are also trying to do that, but it's hard because you want to sketch, you want to print and sit with the client and just do that. So usually we take an iPad and we tell clients, okay, you want to market, you can market here, and because we don't print. Like some of our designers use public trans. And they're like, we don't want to get a car because it's better. Actually, we're thinking about food waste, like small baby steps. But we believe that even at the office, at this level, it can create a great impact, that this is a small thing. But the other thing is that sustainability is not specifying sustainable materials. It is not that. It's not just that. So it starts from the very beginning. First of all, how much real estate does the client need to rent? That's the most important thing. Like you get so many clients thinking, okay, because they're going to have...
Bigger is better.
Yeah.
I need to consume more space to show
Because
my
in
status.
5 years, in 5 years, we believe that we're going to grow 20%. So we need to rent 2 extra floors now. This is the most important thing. Of course, real estate, people hate us for that, but that's the most important. Second is, how do you utilize the space? How do you design it sustainably to make it flexible? Because we also talk about flexibility, but are we really designing sustainably that we really know in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years, this can be changed to be like this and like that? And then there are a lot of spaces like the boardroom and some other rooms that are utilized once a week or maybe once a month. So how do you design it in a way that enables the staff and the management to use it when it's not used as a boardroom? So to us, we try to, even if it's a 500 square meter office, from the beginning, every single decision that we make, we try to make it sustainable. So that was like the title of the article, like sustainable decision making.
So you're designing it around the operations and making the operations of the business more sustainable, rather than just picking sustainably sourced materials that have recycled content, but they're shipped over from far away.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of box ticking that's happened before with a lot of the accreditations that you can put onto some of your designs and some of the builds. But I agree totally. It's much more about how people use the space and being more efficient in how they use the space. Yeah.
And of course, you can just buy the credits as well.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to say that, but yeah.
And you know about the furniture as well, how sad it is. Like, okay, when you get furniture, what happens when the life of this furniture ends? How to
Landfill.
factor...
That's where it goes. 99% of the time, straight to landfill.
Yeah, but that's very sad. That's actually the biggest, I believe it's the biggest waste in workplace.
Mm-hmm.
Should we then only challenge for you or furniture manufacturers and suppliers? We're only going to specify maybe furniture that we know once the life of it ends, there's a solution for it. You're going to, do something.
Yeah, I know in Amsterdam, not on furniture, but on construction, if you're erecting a new building, it has to be using materials from a previously demolished building. And I really like that, to construct the new one with all due health and safety considerations taken into account. So we're coming up on time, guys. And just to loop back in and to close us out with one final question. We talked about disruptors real quickly, but what interesting innovations are you seeing right now? Is it just in terms of the collaboration that you guys are doing in the market, or are you seeing anything interesting on the tech side for your industry? How are you seeing the industry innovate?
Well, to tie back into design and build, for me, it is a big shift that we're having even this conversation. As we mentioned before, everyone was kind of sat on different sides. You had the designer, you had the PM and the contractor, and we were in this sort of odd triangle where we're all, in some cases, fighting against each other. You'd fight for design, I'd fight for profit maybe, and the PM would be fighting for the program of the project. So the fact that this is changing and even PMs are coming on board and they're getting behind this idea of design and build, I think is a good shift, and it's going to help clients, give them better value. So I think this is one way things are changing.
I think for us, it's always trying to find the new tools to show the 3Ds or the walkthroughs better. And this is kind of related to change management. It's from the beginning helping the team understand how their office will look like before they move in. So there are tools that we've been using, but we're always trying to find something else, something faster, something nicer looking, something more realistic looking.
Yeah, we've even had clients ask that for us, that they really want to be immersed into what they're buying into before we start the project. So I think that's very important. Yeah. Whether it's augmented reality, walking around the space, or there's many different.
There's also the cost that comes with that. That's cost and time. Yeah, time is.
I mean, if you go to all the trouble of doing an augmented reality walkthrough, and then the client's like, well, actually, I want to change this, this, and this. It's a long process to get back and change it all again.
Absolutely.
It is in augmented reality, but in virtual reality, obviously, if you've got a confined space that you're using it in, you can actually change things in the moment on the plan. AR, it's more difficult to do because you've got to render it up and down back into the overlay of the physical and the digital experience. But if it's just virtual reality, I know because we did this at my previous employer, they could be in the space and go, actually, I want to swap that chair out or that finish out for this one. They can do.
Was it Unreal Engine?
I know we used Alien hardware the laptop, because you have to really
It's a gaming, because it would.
It's a gaming laptop.
Yeah, most.
Is it simple to do that? Switch it in and out.
Yeah, it's simple. It's simple to do, but the tech side is expensive. Well, I mean, it depends what you call expensive, but there's like sensors. So we'd put it in a small kind of booth space or a private office with sensors all around, so it could plot where you are in that space as well. And then again, because it's virtual reality, you're using a clicker to move through the space rather than walking through a physical space with an augmented lens. And then you're just saying, right, okay, that chair, different color. But what I like about augmented reality, if you're not doing the fully immersive experience, if you're using like Peacon.box or something like that, you can swap out. So if you wanted to change one chair for another or one fabric for another, you can do that in the Peacon app and then put in a different virtual augmented version of that product right there in front of you. That's quite cool.
You can only have the products that are loaded into that.
That is also true. But they do have a degree of configuration as well in there. But it's not total and complete because it's a laborious task going through it. So you'll also only find like the big players.
Yeah, how do new designers get their stuff in there?
Exactly, yeah. It's really tricky, but it's in its infancy. It's growing, but it's also pretty cool to be able to whip out your phone and go, right, check out this product. You might really like this for this part of the office setting. Well, thank you very much for participating in the inaugural episode of the Let's Talk podcast series by Horton Interiors, powered by Maven. Thank you, Rasha. Thank you, Douglas. Really appreciate you being the first guests on the show.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
There we go.